Everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's been very long. It's been very long, loads and loads of things, but I was able to make out time just to show this application, right? I had already written the code, but I'll just go through and I'll try as much as possible to explain how the thought process is, everything I how I imagined it and how it came out. So the first thing I did was to create a new Flutter project, an empty Flutter project. So you can see my pop spec. I added my assets, right? I added my assets. So the assets here are, you can see them, the images inside the SVG. There is a dark folder and there is a light folder. And the reason is because even though this is our design, the design I looked at, even though this design doesn't have a dark mode, but the purpose of me doing this tutorial is to show us how I implement theming and responsiveness. So there is an images folder, there is an SVG folder for dark mode, for dark themes and then light themes. Then there is this package Spider. So Spider is just something I use to easily um, manage my assets, right? So you just do, if you go to this and search that Spider, right? So that Spider, you can see it's a package. You just install it, follow the installation process. You just write that pub global activate Spider, and that is it. Then you can read through and see exactly what it does. So here you can see I added my images folder, and well, this is not necessary for now because I didn't use it. So you can see I added my images folder and my light folder. So you can either add one of these two folder, either you add the light or the dark, and the reason is because whatever is here on the dark folder is also going to be here on the light folder, right? So you have this home.svg on the dark folder is also going to correspond here on the light folder. So, and that is it for assets. Then for the main code, it is just okay. For the packages that I used, you can see I used Flutter screen util, I used Flutter SVG, and I used signals. So signals is for my state management. I just decided to use signals. You can use whatever one you're comfortable with. Then this is Flutter SVG. Flutter SVG is for managing my SVG assets. Then screen util is for responsiveness. So when we come to the main folder, very simple. You have your main application, and then this main application has all of these things, and this is just a way to easily capture responsiveness. So there is the layout builder, there is the orientation builder, and these two widgets, that is the orientation and lay and the constraint and the orientation of this particular project is passed into this design size configuration. So if I go to this design size configuration, you will see how I implement my design size. So normally when you go to your project that you're working on, if you click on the project, you can see the, if I click on this, you can see the height and the width, that is 375 by 812. So you just enter it here, 375 by 812, right? So when it is in portrait mode, it will return 375 by 812. Okay, this is actually for the small screen, right? So I'll do it here, 375 812 812 375, right? Then for the small screen, I'll go lower to 340 by I'll just make up numbers, 512. 340, which means on a smaller device it's going to use a smaller scale. Then we have large, we have extra large. You can do so if the design you're working with has different sizes, like they were able to capture the appearance on different screens. You can use this same way and enter for each of the sizes. So that is how, so we don't just put one size for this place. So these are the other properties: meaning text adapt, use inherited media query, ensure screen size. I usually set this to true, and the last one, rebuild factor, I also set it to true, just so that when our our device changes in either orientation or whatever, you can, if you go to rebuild factor, you will see a lot of them. So you have rebuild factor by size, you have by orientation, you have size and view insert, you have always. So what I did here is just to set it to always, so it will always rebuild. You have your material, you have your theme, so you set your theme, your light theme, this is my light theme, and you have your dark theme, this is my dark theme, and all these can be found in the app theme class. So I have my light, I have my dark theme, I have my light theme. Then the theme mode, so is dark mode. If it is dark mode, you return the theme mode dot dark. If it is light mode, you return theme mode dot light. And this is dark mode is simply a signal. You can see it's a signal here. So you have it set to false, which means is dark mode is false. In most cases, you will save this value to your local storage, so you retrieve it when the app launches. But I just decided to keep it false, so every time that I start the app, it's going to be light mode. But for your project, for your production project, you have to save that value locally, maybe using shared preferences, and retrieve it when the app launches. So we go to our onboarding screen. So the onboarding screen is just a very simple screen. You have this extend behind app bar. So if I did not put this in, you're going to get something like this. So I have to put it just so that you have this, right? You have your app bar, I have to make it transparent just so that this will appear. If it is not transparent, you get something that is also not so good. Then the elevation, I had to set it to 0. If I did not, okay, there is not visible difference, but let's just leave it at 0. Then the leading, you have this icon button that changes the dark mode, that toggles the dark mode. So if I click on this, it toggles the light and the dark mode. That's what this icon here does. Then in our body, we have an orientation builder, and this orientation builder basically is just to give us an orientation, to give us whether tell us whether our application is in portrait or in landscape. So if our application is in portrait, it returns a different way. If our application is in landscape, it returns a different way. So if I rotate this screen now, you see that things change, right? Yeah, I think I would need to, let me change this screen size back to what it was. I think that one was much more better. This is better. You can configure based on your specifications. So let me get back to here. So you can see when our orientation changes, this also adapts to it, and if I rotate it back to portrait mode, it also changes, and that is why I need an orientation builder here. So if it is in portrait mode, I return a column. So this thing is basically a column that ended here, then the second one started from here and ended here. So if I remove one of these, you will see that this is one. If I remove this one, you will see that this is the other part, right? So the same thing here. If it is in landscape, you will be in a row, and that is what you have here. So this is a row, and you have this other part here. So the initial design does not have that. I just decided to put it because I feel like that will explain it better. Okay, so right, we are here. So inside this our top layer is very simple. That is this area. So you have an expanded, you have a stack, we have our paint. So this is actually our paint. If I remove this paint, you will see that this goes away, right? So that is the custom paint that we did. Then we have our image here, right here, and it's aligned at the bottom. If I remove it, you see, very simple. So this is just our top layer, and our bottom layer is this side. So if I go to the bottom layer, is also you have an expanded, you have a padding, and you have 34 dot pad. So this is a custom extension I created. Then I had to pass this orientation down, and the reason why I did this is because so I can capture the orientation, and if the orientation is landscape, I will space evenly. If it is portrait, I will keep it as start, and that is what gives us this. So at this, in portrait mode, this is main axis alignment dot start, but if I return it like this becomes main axis alignment dot space evenly, right? And that's how why I had to pass the orientation down, like inject it down to that widget. Then there's a little bit of space here, like a 10. So we have 10 dot vertical space. We have this text that said let's start your habits, right? Let's start your habits. And that is also what we have here. Let's, even though this design is not properly aligned, so when you click on the design, you see that this is bold and this is 35. So the font size is 35, the font weight is bold, and the color is black, right? So how I do it is, in my style, I have 35 dot bold dot off context. So this is one of the main reasons why I'm creating this tutorial series, or this tutorial. So bold is an extension on number. So I have from W100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, and then bold. So each of these correspond to the font weight of the text. So if this were a different font weight, I will give it that particular one. Then 35 is the font size, and that is why you have 35 dots off. Then this off is another extension on text styles that I created. So basically what it does is that it takes a context and then the light color, that the if you click on this thing, you will see that the color is 000, which is pure black. So I have this app color dot black, that is this color. And the reason why I did this is because when you change your theme, this turns white, right? And that is where this comes to work. So if you look at this, I have a contrast. So white color goes to black, black color goes to white. If I change this to colors dot red, so what it means is that every black color will be red. In light mode, it will be black, but in dark mode, it will be red, and you can see it here. So it depends on what the design gives. And if you want to give this a particular color, you don't want to use the default contrast, you can do a dark and say colors dot purple, right? So it's going to use the one that you provided, it won't go to use the contrast. So this dark is null, is a nullable value. So if you don't provide a black, that's a dark, the dark theme, if you don't provide a color for it, it will use the one in the contrast, which you will find here. But if you provide one, it will use the one you provided. Then you have another space, 12 dot vertical space, that is this space here. Then you have this text, this lorem ipsum blah 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 blah, and then you have another text which is regular and 20. So for regular, I decided to use W500, that's a font weight of 500. You can decide to call this, let's say if you call it regular, depending on your design. So if this is regular, it means that you will not need to worry. Anytime you just see regular, you do 20 dot regular, and that will give you the regular. Depending on what the regular is, the value of it, the font weight is regular, that's what you will now put. Then you have 20 here as the font size, so that is why you have let me zoom. So that is why you have 20.regular.off. The same thing, you have app color dot gray. So you can see that this is a gray color, 70 70 70, right? So that is this 70 70 70. Now in my contrast, gray matches dark gray. So if this is a dark gray, which is the same color, okay, if I can change this to another color, let's say yellow, right? If I change this to, okay, let me use yellow here, like this, okay. So if I use this, it means that I have to restart for it to take effect. So it means that in dark mode, this will be yellow. So it depends on what the corresponding dark color for your text in your design. So whatever it is, you put it in your contrast. So that is how it works. Then here I made another condition just so that this thing matches. I said if orientation is portrait, you have a spacer. So that is this spacer here if it is portrait, but if it is landscape, there is no spacer. You can see there is no spacer, right? So that is another condition I just did there. Then you have an elevated button. This is your elevated button, and you have a start now. So the same thing happens. So you have the background color. So the idea here is almost the same. This is orange in light mode. So if I switch this to light, this is orange in light mode. So instead of just writing app color dot orange, you do the same thing, app color dot orange dot off context. What this does is that by putting this extension, it will look for the corresponding dark value in your contrast, and as we know it, orange colors corresponding dark mode is blue. So meaning that in dark mode, this background is going to be blue. That is it. But if I wanted to use red, so I would just say app color, let's say colors dot red, right? So this will be red in dark mode. I will now override the default one I'm using. So in light mode it will be orange, in dark mode it will be red. So it all depends on what you want to achieve. Then you have your text style, the same thing. If you click on this text now, you will see that it is bold and 24. So you have 24.bold.off context. Then the light is white, meaning that in light mode it's going to be white, but in dark mode, okay, it's also going to be white. If I wanted to use another color, I'll go to my, oh, I just quit my simulator. That is very bad. That was a big mistake. Let's see how fast it's going to be able to launch. So that is I was even done with the tutorial. So that is how I'm able to handle responsiveness across my both teaming and or whatnot. But now there is one catch that I did this this off extension does not mean that you cannot still theme your application. As you can see here, you can still use your scaffold background color, that is in your light theme and in your dark theme. You can still make use of different colors here. So you can see the app bar theme. I still themed it the usual way, but what I did not do is to start theming doing a theme for my text, and trying to get all the body text, subtitle and all whatnot. So I did not do those things, and I feel this is way easier. So once you click on the components in your Figma, you get the color and the font size and the font weight. You just use the off extension and proceed. When this application launches, I'll walk us through I'm going to walk us through this extension. So for the extension, you can see the off extension is very easy. So you have, this is the off extension for color. You have, this is the padding that I did. This is the font weight. Then this string extension. Yeah. One more thing that I did, I commented it out. So I will show us just now. Um, I did not demonstrate how this SVG work. This home SVG. The reason for having home here in dark mode, and then having home here in light mode, and I'll show us in a bit how it works. Okay, so for that I will go here, and in my action I'll just do app svg dot home dot render. Okay, so yeah, so this does it. So I have, okay, I don't know what that means. Okay, done. So you can see that I have a blue home. I have a blue home SVG in light mode, and when I click this it is orange, right? If I click this it is blue, and that is because of these assets here. So in light mode this is a blue color, and in dark mode this is an orange color. So the reason why I have two different SVG is to be able to do this. So what happens is it checks whether we are on light mode or dark mode, and then it picks a particular asset. So here you can see why I did that. So you can have you have assets SVG dark and light. So with this now, this captures the path for the dark mode, and this captures the path for the light mode. Now depending on the theme of the app, whether the app is in dark mode or light mode, it returns dark for dark mode and it returns light for light mode. So you don't need to these assets, there used to be a color, but we all know it is deprecated. So to find a way to work around it, that is why we have this render. So this render is an extension on strings, and then it does what it does. So yeah, that is the process. I will also upload the I'll create a repository for this, and it will be public for everybody to access. Thank you.